Ever wonder what your favorite pizza topping says about your financial mindset? In today's Rich Dad Poor Dad summary, we're not just talking assets and liabilities. We're talking pepperoni and pineapple, baby. So grab a slice, lean back, and let's find out if you're building wealth or just ordering extra cheese.
Imagine having two really different father figures teaching you about money. One's highly educated, PhDs and all that, but always seems stressed about bills.
Right, living paycheck to paycheck despite the credential.
Exactly. And then the other, maybe didn't even finish high school but built businesses, seems totally at ease with money. It's a pretty stark contrast.
It really is. And that's the core idea we're diving into today. From Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
It's a book that, well, it definitely shook things up for a lot of people, challenged how they think about finances.
Yeah, often goes against the grain, right? So our mission today, for you listening, is to unpack the really practical stuff from this book. What can you actually do differently starting today? It's not just theory. We want actionable insights for your habits, your decisions, your whole money mindset.
And what's interesting is where Kiyosaki starts. It's all about your mindset, your emotions around money. He sets it up with these two dads, and they're totally opposing views. It really frames everything else.
Okay, so let's get into those opposing views. Where did they really differ? What were those core beliefs?
Well, you had the educated dad saying things like, the love of money is the root of all evil. Very traditional view, almost suspicious of wealth.
Which you hear a lot.
You do. But then the rich dad flips it completely. The lack of money is the root of all evil. That's a real attention grabber.
Wow, yeah. How does he justify that, saying the lack of money is the problem?
His point is that lacking money leads to stress, fewer opportunities, maybe even desperation. It's not that money itself is good or bad, but lacking it creates hardship. It shifts the focus from judging wealth to solving the problem of scarcity.
That makes sense. It's about agency, not judgment. And this showed up in their everyday language too, right? Like the whole I can't afford it thing.
Exactly. The poor dad often said, I can't afford it. End of story. Brain shuts off.
Yeah, conversation over.
But the rich dad, he apparently forbade those words. He insisted on asking, okay, how can I afford it?
Which sounds like just words, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I can't afford it is resignation. Mental laziness, he called it. But asking, how can I afford it, forces your brain to actually engage, to look for solutions, to exercise that financial muscle. It doesn't mean you buy everything, but it trains you to think proactively.
Like a mental workout. I like that. And their advice was different too, right? Like about jobs and houses.
Totally different. Poor dad. Study hard so you can find a good company to work for. Emphasis on security, the job.
Standard advice.
Rich dad. Study hard so you can find a good company to buy. Thinking like an owner, an investor.
Big difference.
And the house thing. Poor dad. Our home is our biggest investment.
Rich dad. My house is a liability. That one really throws people.
Yeah, it goes against everything we're told. Which leads perfectly into this idea of the rat race.
Right. Kiyosaki describes this cycle. Get up, go to work, pay bills, repeat. Over and over.
Sounds exhausting. And familiar, probably, for many. And he says driven by two core emotions. Fear of having no money, fear of getting fired, and greed, or maybe desire, wanting nicer things, keeping up.
So you get a raise.
And instead of getting ahead, the desire kicks in. You buy a bigger house, a new car, expenses go up, and you're right back in the trap, just maybe at a slightly higher level. Your emotions are controlling your financial thinking. You react instead of strategize.
So the key insight here for you listening is realizing that you are the variable you can change. It's not just about blaming your boss or the economy. It's about your perspective, your emotions.
Exactly. Acknowledge the fear and desire, but don't let them dictate your actions. Use any frustration you feel as fuel to learn and change. It takes energy and passion.
Okay, so here's the first takeaway tip. Catch yourself when you think or say, I can't afford it. Immediately flip it to, how can I afford it? Just asking the question changes things.
And also start noticing when fear or that desire for more is making your money decisions. Pause. Think logically. Don't just react.
So mindset is step one, change the question. But what are we trying to afford? This brings us to assets and liabilities. The book calls this rule #1.
Yeah, this is fundamental. Kiyosaki puts it super bluntly. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets.
Okay, so rule #1 is know the difference and buy assets. But how does he define them? Not the textbook way, right?
No, he keeps it incredibly simple, focused purely on cash flow. An asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. That's it.
Simple, but powerful.
And then he shows the patterns. Poor folks. Income comes in, expenses take it out, middle class, income comes in, but they buy liabilities, mortgages, car loans, credit cards thinking they're assets, so money goes out constantly to service these things.
Trapped in the rat race, paying for liabilities.
Right. The rich, however, focus on building that asset column, things like rental properties, stocks that pay dividends, businesses, things that generate income. That income pays their expenses, and the rest gets reinvested into more assets. It's a different flow entirely.
Which brings us back to the house. Why is the dream home often a financial nightmare in this view? It feels safe. It's what everyone aims for. Why is it so hard to see it as a liability?
Well, there's a huge emotional piece, right? Home is security, family, status. And society tells us it's a great investment.
Definitely.
But Kiyosaki forces you to look purely at the cash flow. Does your primary residence put money in your pocket each month? No. It takes it out. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, utilities. It's an expense center.
Even if the value goes up on paper.
Even then, that's net worth, which Kiyosaki argues can be misleading. To realize that gain, you have to sell, pay taxes, and you still need somewhere to live. Plus, it doesn't help your monthly cash flow situation. He argues people get a raise, buy a bigger house, and just increase their outflow, digging deeper into the rat race. Financial literacy, for him, is understanding this cash flow dynamic.
So it redefines wealth, too. It's not just about having a high net worth on paper.
Exactly. He uses Buckminster Fuller's definition. Wealth is your ability to survive. How many days forward could you live if you stopped working today? It's about cash flow from assets covering your expenses. That's financial independence. When your assets pay your bills, you're wealthy, regardless of your job.
That's a powerful reframe. Okay, takeaway tip time.
Look at your stuff, your car, your house, even smaller things. Ask for each one. Does this put money in my pocket regularly or take money out? Start shifting your focus towards acquiring things that put money in.
Okay, understand assets, focus on acquiring them. But how? This leads to the idea of minding your own business. What does that actually mean? It's not just starting a company, is it?
Not necessarily. It's a crucial distinction. He uses Ray Kroc, the McDonald's guy, as an example. What was Kroc's profession?
Selling hamburgers or franchises, I guess.
Right. But what was his business? According to the book, it was real estate. McDonald's became huge by owning the valuable land under its restaurants.
Ah, okay. So the profession is what you do day to day for income. Your business is your asset column.
Precisely. Most people focus only on their profession, their job, working for someone else's business. Financial security comes from minding your own business, actively building your own collection of income-generating assets, separate from your job.
So you keep your job, but you build assets on the side.
That's the idea. Your job pays the bills initially, but your focus, your extra time and money, goes into building that asset column.
And this ties into buying luxuries, right? The difference between looking rich and being rich.
Absolutely. The pattern he describes is poor and middle class get some extra money or credit and buy a luxury item first, a fancy car, a big trip. Looks good, but often deepens debt.
They buy the liability first.
Exactly. The rich, they build the asset first, they wait. They let the income from the asset buy the luxury. He talks about his rich dad wanting a Mercedes.
Yeah.
He didn't just buy it. He bought apartment houses, built up the rental income over like 4 years, and then used that passive income stream to pay for the car. The asset bought the luxury.
That requires patience.
It does. But it means the luxury doesn't add to your financial burden. It's a reward funded by smart investing.
So the actionable insight is, keep the day job for now, but dedicate your spare energy and funds to acquiring real assets. Avoid consumer debt like the plague.
And he briefly mentions corporations too, as a tool the rich use. Not specific legal advice, obviously, but pointing out they can offer tax advantages, paying expenses before taxes, and liability protection. Another piece of financial intelligence.
Got it. So takeaway tip, before you splurge on that big ticket item, ask yourself, what asset could I buy or build first that would eventually pay for this luxury? Grow the assets, let them buy the toys.
That's the discipline.
Okay, this all requires what the book calls financial intelligence. It's not just about earning, it's about inventing money. What does that mean?
It means seeing opportunities and creating value where others don't. Kiyosaki says often in the real world, it's not the smart who get ahead, but the bold. He gives this great example from when the Phoenix real estate market tanked.
What?
Foreclosed houses were selling for peanuts, say $20,000, but were easily worth $60,000 fixed up. His rich dad would snap these up, often with little money down, maybe do a quick cleanup, and then sell them to buyers who couldn't get bank loans, holding the mortgage note himself.
So he created a deal out of nothing, basically.
Exactly. He generated passive income from the note, often structured it tax efficiently through a corporation. He didn't just find money. He created a money-making opportunity. That's inventing money.
Well, how does someone develop that ability? If you're not buying foreclosed houses, what are the underlying skills?
He breaks financial IQ down into 4 key areas.
Right.
1, accounting, financial literacy. You'll be able to read the numbers, understand a financial statement. It's the language of money.
Makes sense.
2, investing, the science of making money, understanding different strategies, risk, return.
3,
Understanding markets, supply and demand, what makes something valuable, spotting trends, knowing when to buy or sell based on market conditions, not just emotion.
and the last one.
The law, knowing the rules of the game, especially taxes and corporate structures, how to use the system legally to your advantage for protection and growth.
So the big insight is you have to actively learn this stuff. Invest in your own financial education across these 4 areas. That's how you spot the opportunities.
Right. But even if you have the knowledge, Kiyosaki points out 5 common roadblocks that stop people. The first one is huge. Fear. Specifically, fear of losing money.
Everyone feels that, right?
Absolutely. But the difference, he argues, is how you handle it. Winners aren't fearless. They learn to manage fear and failure. He says, winning means being unafraid to lose. Failure isn't fatal, it's feedback. It inspires winners to learn and adjust. It just defeats losers.
So you have to be willing to make mistakes.
You have to see mistakes as tuition paid for valuable lessons. Don't let the fear of striking out keep you from swinging the bat. So, takeaway tip for fear. Reframe failure. See it as a necessary part of learning and getting stronger, not a reason to quit.
Okay, obstacle 2. Cynicism. The chicken little, the sky is falling mindset.
Yeah, the doubters. The ones who always tell you why something won't work. Cynicism keeps people frozen, playing it safe, missing opportunities. Kiyosaki says savvy investors often buy when the cynics are panicking. Remember, cynics criticize, winners analyze.
He mentions people saying, I don't want to fix toilets about real estate investing.
Right, and the rich dad's response was basically, who says I want to? The point is finding a solution like hiring a property manager instead of letting the objection kill the opportunity.
So the takeaway tip for cynicism is, when you catch yourself saying, I don't want to do X, flip it. Ask, how can I get the benefit without doing X? Find the workaround.
Exactly. Don't let the small negative details block the big picture.
Obstacle 3, laziness. But not just couch potato laziness.
No, it's often disguised as being too busy. Or it's mental laziness defaulting back to, I can't afford it, or it's too complicated. People stay busy with unimportant things to avoid tackling the important, sometimes uncomfortable financial thinking.
How do you fight that?
Kiyosaki says a little bit of greed helps a strong desire for something better. It motivates you to push past the laziness and find solutions. So, takeaway tip for laziness. Honestly, assess your busyness. Is it productive toward your financial goals, or is it avoidance? What one thing could you stop doing to make time for financial learning or action?
Number 4 is huge. Bad habits. Specifically, not paying yourself first. This sounds backwards, pay yourself before bills.
It's radical, but core to his philosophy. Rich Dad insisted, pay yourself first, put money into your asset column before you pay your bills, even if money is tight.
But what if you can't pay the bills then?
That's the point. The pressure from creditors, the government, whoever, forces you to get creative, to find other ways to generate income to cover those obligations. It builds your financial muscle, your resilience. It ensures your asset column grows consistently instead of just getting the leftovers, if any.
Wow, that takes discipline and guts.
It does. It's about prioritizing your financial future over immediate obligations, trusting you'll find a way to meet them. Takeaway tip for bad habits. Set up an automatic transfer. The day you get paid, have a set amount moved to your investment or savings account first. Then figure out the bills. Feel the pressure and use it as motivation.
Okay, final obstacle, arrogance.
Yeah, using arrogance to mask ignorance. Thinking you know it all so you stop listening, stop learning. Kiyosaki says truly smart people welcome new ideas, they listen more than they talk, and be careful who you listen to. Don't take financial advice from people who are struggling financially themselves.
Makes sense. Seek out knowledgeable people.
Right. Takeaway tip for arrogance. Stay humble, stay curious. When you encounter a new financial idea, especially one that challenges you, approach it with a desire to understand, not to dismiss. Find mentors who've actually done what you want to do.
Okay, we've covered mindset, assets, obstacles. Now let's get really practical. The book is a kind of to-do list to kickstart your financial genius. Where do we begin?
First, pretty straightforward. Stop doing what isn't working. Take an honest look. If your current approach isn't getting results, you got to change it.
Sounds simple, but hard to do sometimes. Then what?
Look for new ideas. Be hungry for knowledge. Read books, articles, take courses on different ways to make or invest money, even if they seem outside your comfort zone initially.
Be a lifelong learner.
Absolutely. And crucially, find someone who has done what you want to do. Seek out mentors. Talk to people who are successfully investing or building businesses. Ask them how they did it. Learn from their experience.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Why would you?
Yeah.
Also, take classes, read, attend seminars, invest time and sometimes money in your financial education. Kiyosaki stresses how much value he got from courses.
Then there's one that might scare people. Make lots of offers, especially in real estate.
Yeah, he frames it like a game. Don't be afraid to put in low offers. Use contingency clauses. Subject to partner approval, even if the partner is your cat who jokes. It's about getting comfortable with the process, understanding it's partly a numbers game. You won't get every deal.
Takes the pressure off. What else?
Jog or drive through an area regularly, once a month maybe. Look for signs of change construction, new stores, for sale signs, sitting too long. Change often signals opportunity. Talk to people who work in the area.
Be observant.
And shop for bargains in all markets. When stocks crash or the housing market dips, that's often the time to buy, not panic sell. Be greedy when others are fearful, as Buffett says. Profits are often locked in when you buy right.
Counterintuitive, but makes sense.
Also, look in the right places. Sometimes the best deals aren't advertised through conventional channels. He talks about finding deals at foreclosure auctions, learning from people who specialize in finding undervalued assets.
Go where others aren't looking.
And think big. Don't limit yourself with small thinking. Look for ways to leverage resources, maybe partner with others. And finally, learn from history. Study successful people and businesses, see how they handle challenges and built wealth over time. Colonel Sanders is a great example. Success came late after many failures.
That's inspiring. So the overall insight here is that building wealth is a journey, right? It requires learning, action, persistence.
Exactly. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a process. So the final takeaway tip here is pick just one thing from this list. Just one, something that resonates with you, and commit to doing it this week. Maybe it's researching a class, maybe it's driving around a neighborhood, maybe it's making that first low offer. Just start.
Start small, but start. Great advice. So wrapping this up, what's the core message for you, our listener, to take away from this deep dive?
I think it really boils down to this. Financial freedom isn't just about earning more money. It's about how much you keep, how smart you are with it, and critically, how you make your money work hard for you.
Shifting from being an employee of money to being its master.
Exactly. And the book hammers this home. Your most powerful asset is your mind. Train it well, feed it with financial intelligence, give it the courage to act, and it can create incredible wealth.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. Right now, is your mind trained primarily to work hard for money? Or are you actively training it to have money work hard for you? What choice, what small action will you take today to shift towards the latter?